You're listening to episode number 70 of the Transform Your Life from the Inside Out podcast. This is a Q&A episode, and in this episode I answer a relationship question by Rebecca, and I'm going to read the whole question in just a moment, but the gist of the question is this. I have a good life and a good husband, but I'm not happy in my marriage. What do I do? Now, I know that many of you, we live in a country, at least in the U.S., where we have a 53% divorce rate. And I think many of you, if you're in a long-term relationship or marriage, are going to relate to this episode to one degree or another. Stay tuned. Hi, I'm Jim Fortin, and you're about to start transforming your life from the inside out with this podcast. I'm widely considered the leader in subconscious transformation, and I've coached super achievers all around the world for over 25 years. Here, you're going to find no rah-rah motivation and no hype, because this podcast is a combination of brain science, transformational psychology, and ancient wisdom all rolled into one to take your life to levels you've never thought possible. If you're wanting a lot more in life, to feel better, to heal, to have peace of mind, to feel powerful and alive, and to bring more abundance and prosperity into your life, then this podcast is for you, because you're going to start learning how to master your mind and evolve your consciousness. And when you do that, anything you want then becomes possible for you. I'm glad you're here. Okay, so when I said Rebecca's question, it is Rebecca's question, but I answered a question by another person named Rebecca a while back, so not the same question. I just want to clarify that. I want to read Rebecca's question, and it's kind of long, and that's okay because I read through it again before I started this episode, and it's a really good question, and I think that a lot of you seriously can relate to this. Um, anyway, let me just read it, okay, before I even dig in here. My question is, I'm 27, married, my own home, awesome job and financial stability, but I'm not happy or in love as I used to be in my current marriage. I just don't feel at peace with my marriage. What has shaken this all up is when I got married at 25 and walked down the aisle, I had a gut and heart feeling this wasn't right, but I just did it because society says I have to, and I don't want to look like an idiot for canceling a wedding. My husband is such an amazing person. We get along. We never fight, drink, gamble, or abuse. Never happens. So I'm very grateful for that. But I feel selfish because I'm not happy in my marriage part only. What triggered all of this is start of this year, my ex messaged me, and it's been 8 years since I last dated him. We had an intense connection and love for each other, but we only dated for about 6 months, but it was a connection like no other, and it was so lovely and intense. So when he messaged me out of the blue at the start of this year, he mentioned how much he still loves me and wants me to be happy and he misses me, etc., etc., etc. Was the universe sending me a test? Question mark. A catalyst? Question mark. To this day, since January, I have not stopped thinking about him and our happy times. I do still feel the love for him. I feel like I'm starting to manifest something here because I cannot stop thinking about him. But overall, I feel silly for giving up a good person and a beautiful home with my life set up. But I'm not in love as I used to be. So why am I going through this? What lessons do I need to learn? Is it for me to speak up? Question mark. This is quite hard. I know the universe has my back. Is this happening because my soul contract is up with my current husband? I can't say the words because he will think I'm nuts. But overall, what I'm trying to get at is, was the universe sending me a test in some ways and for me, and I'm dreaming about my ex 3 times a week? It's a trigger point. Is the universe trying to serve me more lessons, or could it be a twin flame? Now, that's the reason I picked this particular one. Is it a twin flame that I'm drawn to? It would be nice to hear you do a podcast about this based on soul contracts coming at an end or why these scenarios happen, because I simply don't know what road to take. Okay, big email. And let me just share with you here for everyone listening. I'm going to go a lot of places in this particular episode. So, I do want to say first and foremost that I am not a licensed relationship therapist. And candidly, that doesn't really mean a whole lot to me. I'm just sharing that with you because I'm not dispensing any marriage advice because again, there's a lot of places I want to go. And I was thinking tonight before I recorded this episode, it doesn't matter that I'm not a licensed relationship expert or therapist because I've coached many. And one of my actually transformational coaches was a phenomenal relationship expert. And I've had some amazing, amazing mentors that were a lot older than I was. And I even remember it dawned on me tonight, many years ago, I had a client. He was a relationship therapist. And I said, do you love your wife? And his exact words were, no, I hate that woman. Literally, that was his exact words. And I thought to myself, I'm like, well, he's here dispensing relationship advice, but yet he hates his wife. His exact words, how valuable is what he's dispensing? Anyway, I want to dig into this, and I don't know how long this episode's going to be, but there's going to be a lot. If you're in a relationship or have been in one or will be in one, which we all are for the most part at some point, I'm going to say things in here that are going to resonate with all of you guys. All right. So, the question is, am I with the right person? And this isn't what Rebecca wants to hear, but the question is, I have no clue if you're with the right person or not. So I want to take that apart and I want to look at several ways. I mean, coaching people all the years that I have, I've coached people, I got a message tonight from a young woman that I've coached. She's in her 20s, and she said, "We are on the verge of the D word again, meaning divorce." Here's the thing also. And again, I'm going to go a lot of places in this episode. When it comes to one-to-one coaching, I don't coach anyone under 30, 32, 34, 35 for the most part. And the reason is this is and this person who wrote this said they were 27 is that in the work that I do, there's not emotional maturity at the age of 25, 27, 29, 30. There's not the level of emotional maturity that I can most work with when I coach people. So I'm going to go, like I said, a lot of places. All right. Am I with the right person? The answer is I don't know, but let's look at that from several different perspectives. Number one, a good friend of mine many years ago was a senior coach in a program called Landmark Forum, which is transformational work, basically. What I do goes beyond that because we go into brain-based habits and subconscious reprogramming and etc. But there's a concept he and I were talking about many years ago, and the concept is called rackets. It's the word like a tennis racket they use. And a racket is whatever mental strategies, let's use that, or sequence that people go through, that is like a racket in their mind. And what a lot of people do is most people, and I think we've all been there, is they go through rackets. And one racket that people go through that I see is number one, my phraseology is that most people don't even know themselves. They literally have so little self-awareness and they don't know themselves. And many times I think more people are in love with the idea of being married or being in a relationship than they are the actual person in the relationship. But rackets are this. The way it was explained to me many years ago, and I see this to be true in my observation of the world, is a racket is, you know what? I like you, and I'm going to buy all of your BS because I like you. And as a result of buying your BS and all of your crap and all of your stories, you know what? You're going to like me. And because you like me, you're going to buy my stories and my crap and all of my stuff. And what we're doing is we're running like an infinity loop of a racket. You buy my garbage, I buy your garbage. Hey, we like each other. And then that progresses. And then eventually what we do is we stay in a long-term relationship. And maybe because we don't know ourselves, we fight and we bicker and all these kind of things. We get married. And then here in the U.S., as I said earlier, last time I looked it up, a 53% divorce rate, which I'm sure is pretty consistent where it's culturally acceptable in the world, the same rate. And a lot of that happens because of rackets. Now, she asked about a twin flame, and I am with my twin flame. Well, the only way that I know that is my brother-in-law, the shaman, had mentioned that to me a while back that we are twin flames. And the second I saw my partner, I mean, the second I knew. I mean, I just knew. And we've had our ups and downs over the years, which I'll get to in just a bit. But you know what? I've always been in a place where, like, I can either grow or, I can leave this relationship. But if I do, it doesn't matter. I'm going to be right back in it 90 days from now. So why not work through my crap while I'm here? Also, and I'm jumping around here a lot, guys, so I'll come back. But also, I find in one of my coaches, a transformational coach, and the only reason I say she has a PhD, just to give a little credibility, I mean, professional education and et cetera, she's a phenomenal relationship coach. And she said something that I very much agree with, and we are very much aligned, and I love her to death, and she's had an amazing impact in my life. And she said that we generally choose people that create the greatest opportunity for us to grow. And I believe that, and I've observed that in my own life and the people that I work with 100%. But what most, and I do mean most people do, is most people get into, you know what? It's not me, it's you, you're not this, you're not that, blah, 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 blah. I'm not going to look at myself because it has nothing to do with me. You're all these things. And by the way, I chose you, but you're all these things. And guess what? I'm done. I'm leaving the relationship. Now, let me backtrack here when I got onto the thread about twin flames. Many years ago, it's probably, well, I don't know, 15, 17, 18 years ago, one of my good friends from college, and I think I've been out of college 32, 33 years, something like that. And he called me, and we're still friends today, and we were great friends in college. And he called me one day and said, "Hey Jim, can I drop by the house? I want to visit with you for a bit." And of course I said yes. And he told me about his girlfriend that he had been dating, I don't know for how many years, maybe 5 or 7 to that point, maybe longer. But she had made up these elaborate lies about um, work things and work trips that she had to go on, and they were pretty extensive lies. He told me what they were, and the reality was is that she was traveling to halfway across the country, having an affair. And he said to me, he says, he talked to other mutual friends, and we all know each other from school. I went to a small school. And he goes, you know what? The other guys told me, every one of them told me that I should dump her. What do you think? And I said, John, I don't know. I don't know. And the reason I don't know is because they're looking at it externally and they're looking at it as, okay, you're in a relationship. Apparently, you guys were in a committed relationship. And by the way, some people aren't, and that works great for them in terms of physical commitment or whatever. And I said, Chris, I don't know. And here's what I said to him based upon Rebecca's question also. I said, John, I don't know because I don't know your karma. Now consider that. I don't know your karma. And he stayed in the relationship. And today, I don't know, it's 17, 18, 19, I don't know how many years later, but he's in a very, very happy relationship. Whereas my other three friends that he had asked, our other three friends, all said, oh, dump her, leave the relationship, blah, blah, blah. So when Rebecca says, should I stay? Am I with the right person? I don't know. But let's dig into that even some more because I want to talk about relationship strategies and maybe different ways of knowing or ways to feel. Now, Rebecca, I want to share a story with you. There were some friends of mine. They're no longer on the planet, husband and wife, and she passed away at 95, passed away about 5 years ago, and he passed over, I call it transitioned, at 90. And when they were young, obviously a lot of years ago, when they were young, they were dating, just like you and your ex-partner or boyfriend. What I want to point out here also, their story is their story, their karma is their karma, your story is your story, and your story is your karma. Candidly, what it looks like to me is that you're looking for somebody to validate a reason for you to, or to make it okay for you, or to give you permission to leave a relationship that you're in that seemingly seems to be well, but you're wanting something different. Now, again, I'm not qualified to answer that question, is he for you or not, because that's beyond my pay grade. I can't see your karma. Now, back to my friends. They dated when they were, no, actually, I'm trying to think here. It's been so many years since they told me this story, and I've known them. They were like grandparents to me, as a matter of fact. But I believe they dated or were married for in their early 20s. And then what they did, because of family pressures from his family, they split. And then they both, yeah, okay, they both got remarried again. And like 5 years later, they both were divorced again. They got back together and they were together for 60 years after that in an extremely happy relationship. So the recapitulation is they were together, they broke up, married somebody else, broke up, and then remarried each other again, and then were together or moved into a relationship, and were in a relationship and very very happy one for 60 years. So asking any of us, am I in the right relationship? Only you know that. And, to give you, more here, food for thought, a good friend of mine, a fraternity brother of mine, he's a very, very close friend. And we were just having lunch one day. He happens to live here in Dallas as well. We were having lunch, and I'm like, how's your marriage? Because I talk very personally with my close friends. I'm like, how are you guys doing? And he's like, yeah, we've had some ups and downs, but this is what he said. He said, you know what? We always work through it because he goes, if we didn't, we might split up, but we already know we're going to be right back together again. And I know the same thing in my personal relationship. There was one point 10 years ago that I definitely was on the path of this isn't working. I want to split. And do we by any means have a perfect relationship? No, which I'll get to in just a minute as well, or I think I will. And if I don't, I'll just say it right now. Is that there is no such thing as a perfect relationship. And especially, Rebecca, you're young. I think you said you're 27 years old. What I see a whole lot of, is young people having unrealistic expectations of, like, they want this fairy tale marriage. And one of my mentors for a lot of years, her name is Peggy. Now, Peggy was my NLP trainer, programmer. I can't even talk tonight. Neuro-linguistic programming trainer for a lot of years. And I only tell you this for credence and just to give credibility. Peggy was a very high level NLP, neuro linguistic programming coach. She has literally coached American presidents while they're sitting in office. One of the wisest people that I know. And she was my friend, a business partner, and a coach for a lot of years. Something that she said to me when I entered the relationship that I'm in now, that I've been in for 18 years, and I was struggling with my own stuff, something that she said to me was this. She said, no one will ever be 100% of everything to you. Consider that. No one will ever be 100% of everything to you. And I see so many young people, young men and women, and they're in relationships and they expect their partner to be Princess Charming or Prince Charming, and they have all these expectations. It's supposed to be perfect and fairy tale and magical and all this stuff. And when it's not that, that's where most people quit, or they start souring on the relationship. But I'm going to share with all of you guys, I don't know anyone in my life that has not had their had their ups and downs in a relationship. And this little funny just story popped in my mind. I remember watching this guy one time, and he said he's an older man, and he said that his advice in a relationship is never go to bed angry. And he said, you know what? There's been some days that I've stayed awake for 5 days because he couldn't go to bed angry, and that was where he worked from, and of course he was kidding about that. But Rebecca, something that I want you to look at in other people is, do you have false expectations of what a relationship is supposed to be? And do you have false, expectations of what your marriage is supposed to be? And then what expectations do you have of him? Now, I'm on the fence here. I mean, if you were my personal friend and I was sitting right in front of you, I'd tell you what I told John. I don't know if you should split or not. I'm 50-50. I mean, it's kind of like watching something on Netflix and it's like, did he do it or did he not? I don't know. Evidence is compelling in both directions. And then I look at it as, is this person that you left many years ago, are they truly your twin flame? And by the way, a twin flame is a soul that is created from the same spark in the Big Bang. Our souls are eternal. And by the way, there's more than one Big Bang. There's multiple Big Bangs. But of course, we've not learned that in our world, and science doesn't know that, and we've not been taught that. But that's what a twin flame is. It's one soul that comes from a single spark, and there's two separate souls that are connected from the same spark. So is he your twin flame? I don't know. And no one will know but you. So let me keep going here, different places. Many people don't know how to be in relationships. So, as I said earlier, the landmark forum comment of people buying each other's rackets, what a lot of people do is, number one, is they overlook. Well, number one, they don't even know themselves. They really don't. As I said earlier, they're more interested in, I don't want to be alone. I don't want to be alone. I don't want to be alone. Let me find somebody and then let me make it work. What I've also noticed is only my interpretation and my experience, and I've coached a lot of people from all walks of life, from famous people to rich people to, people just in everyday walks of life, and Wall Street and European royalty I've interacted with. And I give you that because it's the whole gamut of human experience. And what I've learned over the years is that no one has, for the most part, that fairy tale magical relationship. What I tell people, based upon what Peggy told me, is you know what? You look for the biggest fit and the biggest opportunity to grow, and the rest of it is just something that's not in the relationship. And I see what I mean by that is I see people, for example, let's take sex for an example. Is one person might have a really high level. They might, okay, let's say this. These two people get along extremely, extremely well. They're extremely compatible. But you know what? One has a higher sex drive than another, and every one of you listening, do not get into the cultural myth that, oh, all men want is sex. That's not true. I mean, I have worked with couples before where, she has the libido and he doesn't. So that's a cultural fallacy that, oh, all men want sex and etc. Now there is some truth to that as well. I mean, it's survival and procreation and all that kind of stuff. But my bigger point, and I know I've opened some conversational loops here that hopefully I'll come back to, but my bigger point is this, is that even looking at my own life, is my partner perfect? No. Am I perfect? No. Are there things that, like for example, do I wish at times I got more of my love language met? And by the way, I don't know the author of the book, but it's called I think what the five love languages, and we all have ways that we want to be communicated with and be in relationship with. So, in all transparency and candor, is my love language met to the degree and the way that I'd want it to be met? No, and that's the reality. But the reality also is that my partner is such an amazing person that guess what? I can choose to work on the relationship, I can choose to grow myself, and I can choose to fulfill myself in other ways. Or I don't even that might be coming out a little weird. Okay, so but let me let me just put it this way. I'm gonna close this conversational loop and keep on going with this. Is that no one person can be 100% of everything that you want to you. And I might have maybe one person out of a million saying, "Well, Jim, you're wrong." Well, okay. But you know what? It's just all the people I've coached, I've never seen it before. Okay, so I said just a couple of minutes ago is that most people don't. Number one, and I'm guilty too. I mean, my relationship coach, who was also my transformational coach, was extraordinary. And what I recognized many years ago is that I didn't know how to communicate effectively with my partner. And that's why, because, well, that's because as a kid, I wasn't allowed, or I interpreted that I wasn't allowed to ask for what I wanted and needed in the relationship. So in my relationship early on, the one that I'm in for a lot of years, is I wouldn't ask for what I wanted and needed, and then I'd get bent out of shape because I wasn't getting what I wanted or what I thought that I needed. So a lot of people don't know how to be in relationships. A lot of people actually do not know how to communicate with each other in relationships. I see a lot of couples. Somebody that a good friend of mine, let me put it that way, that I've mentored a lot of years. He and his wife are in their 30s, and I see them quite a bit, and I'm very fond. I'm very close to both of them and their kids. And what I have observed over the years is that many times they don't talk to each other, they talk at each other. Once they get into their communication, they get into their anger. Now it's no longer loving communication, it's literally just talking at each other. So the reason I bring this up in this particular episode for Rebecca is she says the love wasn't there or it's not there. Now, forgive me, I don't remember, Rebecca, did you have the love originally with your husband? Because that's something I look at also, is if the foundation was there, what happened if the foundation isn't there any, or all the wonderfulness, why isn't it there now? So I want to add that many times what people do is they condition themselves out of relationships. What I mean by that is, let's say, for example, the two people are very compatible, but let's say that, which we do, people bring their baggage into the relationship. Then what they do is, let's say, for example, that your husband or your wife, or your boyfriend or girlfriend or partner, let's say that they continuously do something that pushes your button that makes you angry. And they do it day number one, and day number two, day number three, day number four, year number one, year number two, and so on. What happens is you learn, it's called a neural associative condition, just like the Pavlovian response. What happens is they condition you to anger. And then what happens is every time you see them, you automatically go into anger because of the conditioning. Now, the foundational wonderful relationship that you had and the true love that you had for that person is no longer there because you conditioned yourself out of it. Many times, I see people not growing apart because they don't share core values. I see people many times growing apart because they've conditioned themselves out of the relationship, or many times as well, one person is growing, which I see a lot of, and I mean a lot of in my programs, is that one person grows, the other person doesn't. And then in that moment, you've heard me use the word identity a lot of times. Now their identities are not compatible. And the more that your identity is not compatible with your significant other, the weaker the relationship is going to be. Let's keep on going here for just a bit. What I see people doing also is, and I used to do the same thing, and I learned this from my coach. Again, I rave about my transformational coach. One of them, it's been many years, I think 7 years or so since I've worked with her, and her relationship mending skills and teaching people to communicate. But I used to approach a relationship 50-50. I bring my 50, you bring your 50. And I think most of you listening are probably the same way. I bring mine, you bring yours. And then what happens pretty quickly is, you know what? I brought 52%, you're only bringing 39%, you're not bringing what you're supposed to be bringing, therefore I'm going to be angry and I'm going to be resentful. Now I'm going to start talking down to you, I'm going to start talking at you. Then what happens is the other person responds accordingly, and guess what you have? You've got a nuclear meltdown in the relationship. And I see that a lot. In truth, the most amazing, as best they possibly can be, relationships are 100 100. I show up 100%. You show up 100%. There's none of this nonsensical, I carry half and you carry half. No. I'm responsible for my own happiness in this relationship. And guess what? If I need to pick up the ball and I need to run harder or faster to you to supplement our relationship, or if I've got to carry more weight, guess what? I will. Now, the caveat there is that we do want to make sure we're with the right person, because let's say, for example, we are with a taker. In that context, in that scenario, what will happen is the taker will keep taking and taking and taking. This conversation could be a whole ball of wax that I could literally do an entire 10-hour episode on, and I can't do it. But I'm giving Rebecca and the rest of you a lot of food for thought for the way that you approach your relationships. Now, something else is that a lot of people quit relationships because they're emotionally immature. And I mean that from any, 30 years old, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 years old. We become who we are, which you probably have heard me say in other episodes before. We become who we are before around the age of 8 years old, before the analytical brain actually is fully developed. And anything that's said to us as children goes right to the unconscious mind. And that could be that we're not good enough, or we have to fight for attention, or we're not allowed to speak up, or whatever. Then what happens? We bring these things into our relationships. And I'm going to just be candid with you. I'm just sharing with you in my observation of a lot of years, 25 years of doing this, is we live in a world of extreme emotional immaturity. And it's not because the person's a bad person or any of that. It's because they haven't learned. As I said also, I had my own lessons. Let's say, for example, a husband and wife that I'm talking to right now that I know of is when she doesn't pay because she's building her business, when she doesn't pay the attention to him that he thinks that he wants from her or expects or deserves, what he does is he doesn't sit down and be emotionally mature and communicate and say, honey, here's what I need. Here's my love language. I need words of affection. These are the things that I need. He doesn't do that. what he starts doing is he starts acting out. And he acts out in ways that are going to get her attention, that are going to rub her the wrong way because they fire off her triggers. So, for example, she likes a really clean kitchen. She's very neat, very organized. So what happens is when he's not getting the emotional attention that he thinks that he needs because his love language is words of affection, when he's not getting that, then what he does is he starts acting out. Now, mind you, he's not analytically saying, "Oh, I'm acting out." It's happening completely unconsciously. So he's acting out and then he's leaving stuff all over the kitchen, which then triggers her to no longer give him the words of affection, which triggers him to continue to act out. And it just becomes a nasty cycle. Also, I'm going to go into something here very quickly. Teaching neurolinguistics for a lot of years, NLP, neurolinguistic programming, and I mentioned Peggy earlier, my NLP coach. And what I've seen people do also is there's several things, and I'm not going to go very in depth, but people have very different processing styles. I remember a husband and wife one time, and he was predominantly visual. Visual people, meaning they process predominantly through seeing and vision. She was predominantly auditory, which means thinking predominantly, her predominant thinking modality was auditory. Now I'm going to simplify this. That means that he would actually show, which is seeing, he would show acts of love. But yet, what she would rather, in the way she processed information, she would rather hear about acts of love and words of affirmation. So he would do things to show her that he loved her. Now, again, mind you, her predominant style is hearing. So he would do things to show her that he loved her. But what she really wanted is she wanted to hear the words, "Honey, I love you." So, because she wasn't hearing the words, because he wasn't affirming her in the way that she processed information, then what she would do is she would stop showing him his love language and things that he needed for affirmation. And so he was also predominantly visual, as I said, and many times predominantly visual people like very orderly environments. So what would happen is because she wouldn't hear, "Honey, I love you," then she would stop doing things around the house and the house would be messier, which would actually be a trigger for him. And then when he was triggered, he definitely would not in any way acknowledge, "Honey, I love you." And it melted down. But it all melted. We humans are crazy beings. I mean, we really are. But it would melt down because they had very different processing styles, not only in their love language, but in the way that they communicated, whether it be auditorily, visually, or kinesthetically, which means through feelings. So I'm thinking through this and I'm looking in this episode for a transformational takeaway, and I covered several topics about relationships. But a takeaway could be is number one, oh, several here. Number one is most of us get into a lot of our emotional immaturity. Many of us condition ourselves out of relationships. Many of us show up 50-50 instead of 100-100. Many people do not know ourselves. Many people get into our rackets. But the original question, let's go back. Is he my twin flame? Rebecca, I don't know. I want to go back here also, guys. These things are popping in my mind all about this. Notice when I read what Rebecca wrote in about is she already knew at some level. She knew at a heart level that, you know what, I'm just getting married because I think that's what you're supposed to do. And right there, Rebecca, could be a clue for you. Now, the reason I'm not sitting here saying black or white, Rebecca, yes, it's a soul, twin flame, or no, or stay. The reason I'm not is I don't have that power. I don't have enough information about you to be able to coach you. And even as I said, if he were your twin flame, I don't have the personal power to see that. Could he be? Absolutely. But the only person that's going to know that is you. So what I would also encourage you to do, I know I talked about transformational takeaways, but let me go here for a second. When we start conditioning ourselves out of a relationship, what we do is we both kind of just give up and people just kind of start existing. You're in your world now, I'm in my world, you're watching TV, you're in bed, I go to bed earlier, you go to bed earlier, you take care of the kids, I don't do this, etc. And we live in these very just monotonous, banal, self-contained little worlds. And then what we do many times is we give up on the relationship. And this is what I tell people. If you really want to know if he's the one for you, if I were sitting down coaching you, this is what I tell you to do. I don't know the answer. Is he your twin flame? but I would tell you, give your current relationship 100%, not 50, no longer checked out. I mean, you show up and you suit up every day to be the absolute best partner then the kind of partner that he wants. You show up every day and not show up in the way that you want for you, but the way that he would want for you, and give it a test and see. Because one person can change a relationship, literally. It only takes one. People think it takes two. No. Many times you change, your partner will change. And guess what? If you change in an extremely positive way and they don't change, then I'd reevaluate. Well, really, are they the person for me? So, Rebecca, first and foremost, I would tell you to suit up and suit up like you have never showed up before in this relationship. And then guess what? If it doesn't work then and only then, if it were me, would I reevaluate, is this the right person for me? So let's make it simple because my tech guy's going to want something to post on my website. Transformational takeaway is this: is no one person can be everything to you. Okay, so let's talk about the next episode here. You guys have heard me talk before about be, do, have, and you guys have heard a lot about be, do, have in the earlier episodes. In one of my transformational programs, I watched a video that somebody shot tonight about money, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, I finally got it. For me to, to have wealth and attract wealth, I must be wealthy in my consciousness and in my mind." And when I was sitting down tonight, I have a content calendar, and the next episode is about up leveling the be, do, have model. You've heard me talk about be, do, have. We have to be before we can do, before we can have. But it's up leveling the be, do, have model with identity transformation. So that's your next episode. Alrighty, guys. Well, thank you for sitting in with me through this entire episode. Hopefully, I hit on a lot of areas that are valuable to a lot of you. Rebecca, I'm sorry I couldn't give you the black or white yes or no answer, but only you know that. Okay, guys, stay well, make it an awesome day today, and I'll catch you over on the next episode. Bye-bye. Thank you for listening to this entire podcast. If you're the kind of person who likes to help others, then share this with your friends and family. If you found value, they will too. So please share via your social media channels. Also, if you have questions, I'm here to assist. You can email me questions to support@jimfortin.com, and I may even use your question for a future podcast episode. Also, if you want transformational content like this daily, connect with me on Instagram. My Instagram name is I am Jim Fortin. Finally, I do have a personal request. I believe that we're all here to help others and to grow and evolve ourselves. Together, you and I, let's help more people. If you would please leave a review on iTunes, and a good one, by the way. I'd be grateful, and through your assistance together, we can transform more lives.